Hello, Forge fans, wherever or however you may be watching and or listening. It's the match in review. Forge FC losing at Cavalry 2-1 the final. This match had everything as Forge's 6-match winning streak has come to an end. We will hear from Forge FC head coach and technical director Bobby Smyrniotis, as well as forward Jordan Hamilton, who had himself an interesting match. We'll also hear from the Cavalry side. We'll hear from Cantave, and we'll hear from Tommy Wheeldon Jr. A classic Forge and Cavalry match that wasn't decided until stoppage time. So let's get down to it here. Cavalry took the lead. It was Mason in the 7th minute. Here is One Soccer with the call.
That he's settled into the CPL.
Yeah, I think he's settled in. You can see he's got quality, that's for sure. And he brings a different dynamic to the team.
Oh, look at this. Joe Mason on the other end of a perfect delivery in behind the Forge back line. And when they need Mason the most, he steps up and delivers. The home side get the fast start again here at ATCO Field against the Cavs. Joe Mason, goal number 6 on the season.
Adam Jenkins doing play-by-play. Forge FC giving up an early goal. Same thing that happened last time they played at Cavalry. Not what Forge wanted this time. Unfortunately for Forge, though, it went Cavalry's way. It was 1-0 early. Forge was able to come back in the last match against Cavalry a couple of weeks ago after giving up the first one. Not so fortunate in this one. Escalante had the assist on the Cavalry goal. Escalante was a huge factor in this match and a lot for Forge to contend with at times. Sometimes, listen, if we're going to talk about soccer ethics, for maybe lack of a better word, Escalante did a lot to maybe rub some Forge players the wrong way. There was some dramatics, there was some simulation, but I mean, at the end of the day, Escalante, he got the result that he wanted. Really strong game from him. So that first half, not the way Forge wanted to start. It was just, it just didn't look like Forge. They were late getting to some balls. They were late on some of the ball movement. It looked like they had some opportunities in the middle of the field. It just took that extra split second to make a decision. It would turn the ball over. Passing accuracy, not up to the standards we've seen from Forge FC. And at the end of the day, we're going to continue the scoring summary, but when you look at the final stats in this match, ball possession, nearly 60% in favor of Forge FC, but the shot attempts, 16-8 in favor of Cavalry. We talked about it in the match day preview, also in the 3 keys to the match. Cavalry is not a team that's going to do a lot of 1v1, getting the ball into the box and attacking in that way within a few feet of the goal. They're going to take long shots. They're going to try to work their set pieces. It's where the bulk of their goals come from. Cavalry just lets it go. And so the 16 attempts, now 7 made it to goal. Only 2 made it to goal for Forge FC. So Tristan Henry was busy. Now, it looked early that Cavalry was going to do a great job in taking the flanks away from Forge and force them to use the middle of the field. And Forge did, and it resulted in back-to-back corners. They finally got some sustained pressure at around the 10-minute mark. And then all of a sudden, Forge started upping their tempo and forcing Cavalry into some mistakes. I have it written down here, 13th minute, 14th, 15th. Forge was starting to pick things up a little bit and get a little more on that front foot. Cavalry, though, that high press was causing all kinds of trouble for Forge defenders and just for Forge to be able to get out of their defensive third. There were also some turnovers in that middle third as well. Cavalry was doing a good job. They had a game plan and they executed it. Now, Forge did start getting into that final third more consistently in the first half. It took about halfway through that first half. But when they did, there wasn't enough quality on their deliveries. They were getting opportunities to swing the ball in. Chouanier had some chances. Borges had some chances. The fullbacks involved as well. Rama was, involved in everything in all 3 phases of the pitch. At the end of the day, the delivery wasn't quite where it needed to be. I don't know if Cavalry saw something and they were defending it well. but Forge had some trouble delivering their balls into the box and getting the ball onto some of the feet of their attackers. Now, Pasillas started the match. They went with the OG3, the Borges, Pasillas, Choinière trio to start the match. And Pasillas, if there's one thing, as great as Pasillas has been, and as his game starts to evolve, the one thing I think we need to see more of from Pasillas is his play off the ball and his runs and getting behind, and not necessarily always being that target man that needs the ball on his feet. And we know that he can certainly finish when he gets the ball in the dangerous area into his feet, and he doesn't need much time. But you want to see him kind of evolve the other parts of his game. Part of that is going to be his work off the ball, his work rate, and getting in behind defenders and making runs and making good runs and timely runs. Terran Campbell's a guy that works extremely hard off the ball, and that's kind of where you want Pasillas' game to get to. For a young player with all of the attention, he's getting international attention for Pasillas. That's kind of that one. If we're looking at a guy and the next steps he can take because he's evolved and developed so quickly, that would be the next step, is his work off the ball. And that part of that, a lot of that's just experience and playing and getting the coaching and looking at some of the veteran strikers on this club. The veteran strikers, by the way, we'll get to them in a bit because they certainly played a huge role in this one. To Cavalry's credit, they kept it going in the second half. They did not let it up at all. The game plan was still intact. And again, Forge was forced into some turnovers, some uncharacteristic turnovers where they struggled with some of the pressure that Cavalry had. Cavalry had a long layoff. I think they had 9 days in between matches, and they looked like Forge had the week too, but Cavalry just had just a jump in them. I mean, they're at home, they have their crowd there, so it's understandable. This was also maybe the most it was the most important match in Cavalry's campaign this season. So they needed 3 points in this one if they wanted to at least feel good about. This is a team that's been struggling a lot. And the slide, not only can they stop the slide at home, they got to do it against their arch rivals. As much as both clubs want to play down the rivalry, it's clearly there. All right, a lot of substitutions in the second half. Now, Forge did a triple substitution here. Pasillas, Morgan, Choinière came off. Jordan Hamilton, Poku, and Campbell came on. This duo of Campbell and Hamilton, I mean, that is a load for any team to handle. And they made their presence felt because after Dominic Samuel was subbed on for Hojab Rapport, Samuel moved to center back, and it was Alex Hashinotti-Janssen that was bumped up to midfield. Jordan Hamilton, off an unbelievable ball, by the way. Tristan Henry.
Cavs have been looking good. They're on the front foot. They're pressing all over the pitch. First every ball. Forward just giving the ball away cheaply at times, especially in their own half.
Oh, it's Tristan Borges. Nice fake. Gets you out. A bite is Hamilton. His first for Forge. Excuse me. My goodness, this match. Jordan Hamilton, Jimmy, I need a drink. Take it away.
It's amazing. It's typical Forge. Just when you think they're against the ropes, they're taking the punches, and they'll go down the other end, get one little opportunity, and they'll punish you. Great play by Borges.
Tristan Borges, amazing work, amazing skill inside the box. He delivers the Hamilton, who just, you could not have had a more perfect finish. And here's what I thought was interesting. On the Hamilton goal, he talked about seeing a weakness that he thought he could exploit. Here's Hamilton post-match.
No, I think just watching when I'm on the bench, I like to observe the center backs because obviously that's where I'm going to go up top, right? And I kind of noticed Yao was getting fatigued, so I was kind of playing off his side a lot. And on the goal, I spoke with G before the game. If he got the ball, I would make the run, and what a great ball that was by him. And then really all I had to do was hold it up and wait for support. And then Tristan did his magic like he always does and found me, and it's a simple finish, but it's really a team goal.
And it looked as though Forge was going to come away with a point here, a result they would have certainly accepted. Also interesting, you're on the road, you're getting the tying goal, you're maybe not playing your best match, and Cavalry's had a little extra jump in this one. Forge was not looking for a draw here. Kyle Becker sprints toward the goal, picks up the ball to place it because Forge wanted another one. All of a sudden, they felt like they could win this match. Another interesting substitution. Borges comes off, the winger, and Malik Olawabi Bellawu comes on, a center back. So why did Forge add the extra defender when they wanted that extra goal? Well, they were trying to defend what ultimately ended up losing the match for them and winning it for Cavalry.
Stan Club, who finds Jody Chiara. A third touch now across, rising to the back post. Escalante, it's a tap in. Mickey Cantave. Speaking of opening year account, the first for Cavalry for the Haitian. It is absolutely brilliant. Ottawa, Ontario's Mickey Cantave, team goal.
Now, there was some controversy after that goal. The lines person put up her flag. The offside flag was up on that play. It appeared Escalante maybe was offside. At least that's what the line judge thought. Well, all of a sudden, the flag came down after a congregation of Cavalry players swarmed the line judge. And ultimately, the line judge felt that she had made a mistake by putting up at the first place and changed her mind. Now, end of the day, when you look at the replays, he was onside. But you can understand why there would be confusion if you're Forged. The flag goes up, and then after Cavalry surrounds the line judge, the call gets reversed. You can see why that might not leave a good feeling without knowing and having the benefit of a replay to see if the player was onside or not. Here's Bobby after the match talking about that goal.
Yeah, the official on that sideline, the linesman had picked up the flag for offside on the goal, and there was a discussion in the sideline with their whole team with the officials. So I just needed clarification on what happened. Ball went in the net, flag went up for offside, and then everybody seemed to congregate in that corner, and then it was called the goal again. So that's what happened. I guess the broadcast didn't see it because that's the second person who's asked me about it.
And now to get the other perspective, Tommy Wheeldon Jr., head coach for Cavalry, on what he saw in that moment, which, by the way, ultimately ended up in a yellow card because he left his... This is kind of the other thing. I mean, if the manager's supposed to stay within their confined space, and he did leave it and charged toward the corner where the line judge was, so he got booked for it. But here's what he saw.
And listen, the lineswoman was great because she said afterwards she'd made the mistake, but her mistake also cost me a yellow card and probably a few more grey hairs because I ran down the touchline like, what's going on here? Because there's always controversy in this fixture. It's just nice from time to time to actually have it on our side.
So what did happen? What can you tell us?
I think at first she thought it was offside, but then realised it wasn't because it was a header backwards. I think the play happened so quickly. And for us, it was something we worked on in training as well because we knew we could, find those weak spots and crash the net, and we did exactly that.
All right. Well, while we're speaking to Tommy, this rivalry, yes, we're going to continue to call it a rivalry regardless of what anyone says. This is a rivalry. Tommy Wheeldon Jr. on playing Forge, and the fact that, this result went Cavalry's way, Coach feels like Cavalry still has, to be the man, you have to beat the man, as Ric Flair says.
Rivalries have to become organic, and I think probably because we played the first ever final, there's a carryover from that and the intense games. I think that's now 17 games between us, and there's only been one game where there's been more than one goal differential. Shows how tight, how thin the line is, but they are where we strive to be. They're the standard of this league, and we've got to keep embracing the role of the contender. We've not won anything yet. We've just won a game of football against them. We've got to keep on this form and keep into our identity, and good things happen. But look, it's always going to have a little bit of chippiness here and there. That's just the nature of this game. It must be tough for the officials.
All right, now despite the result, Forge coach Bobby Smyrniotis liked his team's effort.
Yeah, I think you had two teams that are different phases in the season right now. We're coming into this game with 6 wins. We're in a good spot where we are, and Cavalry, who's traditionally been good, they've been on a little bit of a slide lately, and I think this was their most important game of the year. Playing at home, playing against us, we know they're always the best version of themselves playing against Forge. A lot of times we see a different Cavalry team against other teams, but with us, it's full out, and they bring the energy. And I think for them, this was a must win. If they had lost points today, it starts becoming a little bit difficult for them. So credit to them and working hard. But I think that's what made it a little bit scrappy. Mostly from their end. I think our football was very good today. But yeah, I think all around, though, the game was a pretty good game, and it was very good for all the fans who were here watching and those who were watching on One Soccer.
And Jordan Hamilton getting his first taste of the rivalry between Forge and Cavalry.
It's obviously frustrating. Full credit to Cavalry. This was my first time in Calgary. The atmosphere was, I was getting going on the bench, getting ready to go in, blood's flowing. It's the type of games you want to be a part of. So full credit to Calgary for pulling off the result, but obviously it's frustrating for us.
2-1 the final. The standings now look this way at the conclusion of the Cavalry Forge match. Forge still in top spot, 35 points with 1 loss in their last 7 matches. They played 18 matches. Cavalry now jumps to second place, 1 point back of Forge. Forge, though, with 2 matches in hand on Cavalry, and they're 3 points up on Pacific and Atletico. By the way, big matchup. Cavalry and Atletico playing next. Forge next in action against York. But we'll get back to that in a second. Speaking of Pacific, who I just mentioned, it's worth noting about a potentially the biggest transfer in CPL history. Certainly it's in the club's history. Potential with incentives and things like that to be the biggest. But Alejandro Diaz, the CPL's leading goal scorer, is moving from Pacific to Sondel. From the Norwegian League, the Mexican striker, he is the first international player sold to a club overseas. So a milestone moment for Pacific in the CPL. Of course, the negative, and it's just the nature of the beast for Pacific, is that they are losing their top scorer and the league's leading goal scorer as they fight for positioning right now in a playoff spot. They currently sit in third. They've won 4 matches in a row. In the match before that, they had a draw. So Pacific playing well, but they will lose their top player heading down the stretch and into the postseason. Forge FC, next in action. Not the 16th, as was originally planned. That match with Pacific being rescheduled because Pacific's playing in CONCACAF. So Forge next in action Saturday, August 20th at home against York. Tickets available now. I'll be there, of course. I hope to see you there. And check back however you get your Forge content, whether you subscribe on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube, as well as the Forge FC social media. I struggle with that every single time. Social media channels. Check it back. A lot coming up this week. We'll have Focus on Forge, and we'll have Behind the Beard. We'll talk to Bobby Smyrniotis this week, and we will preview that matchup, the 905 Derby against York United. I'm Anthony Urciuoli. We'll talk to you again.
This has been Match in Review with Anthony Urciuoli on the Forge Audio Network. For the latest on all things Forge FC, subscribe on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.